Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled yet? I get you. I'm right there with you. I know what it feels like to be on this ever-ending quest of more and trying to find your way. If you have lived in or you live in one of the developing countries, the developed countries, the West as they call it, you probably are experiencing a similar uh, crisis. This crisis of looking around yourself and feeling like you don't have it enough, or you don't have what you need, or you're asking yourself, well, what am I missing, or what is wrong with me? And I think that's something to take a look at. Or we're going to look at it here today. And I want to start by sharing a story of two groups of people. On this side, you had lottery ticket winners, and on this side, you had people who were paralyzed, recently paralyzed. This was a study. And in this study, what they found was obviously the people who hit the lotto and they had the lottery ticket, they were excited. They were going through life. They were like, yeah, baby, we rich. I'm living the dream. And as you would expect, people who were recently paralyzed, they were in this spiral, right? They felt really crappy about where life had taken them, felt really bad about their situation and how they found themselves in it. And so what you have is this dichotomy, right? If you plotted it along the graph, you'd see the lottery ticket winners here, and you'd see uh, people that were recently paralyzed there. And so you might be asking yourself, well, what the hell does this have to do with creating happiness, Vernon? And I'm going to share exactly what it has to do with creating happiness. Because there's this concept called hedonic adaptation. You may or may not have heard of it, but I was very aware of this very early on. I think college was the first time I heard about it. And boy, let me tell you, it was interesting because hedonic adaptation is essentially this idea that no matter what happens to you, no matter what it is that you accomplish, success, money, fame, fortune, also contrarily to that, if you are unemployed, if you find yourself homeless, if you find yourself bankrupt, if you find yourself divorced, no matter what happens in life on both sides of these equations or this coin, the study has revealed that you always kind of return back to this baseline, this mean. It reminds me of the doctrine of the mean. And this is fascinating to me because on one hand, you have the ability to have just like all of these seemingly terrible things happen to you, and on the other side, you have all these things that could like essentially blow your mind and like make you feel like you're the most successful, accomplished human on the planet. And especially for westernized civilization, where there's a lot of emphasis on individuality and goals and going after it and making it happen, baby. I think this is fascinating, right? Because I believe that this is why we are not happy. And this is why you can make $100,000 and eventually that just becomes the norm, right? No insult to people who aren't making that much money, but any amount of money, right? You can go from broke to rich overnight, and for a while you'll be happy. But what the theory of hedonic adaptation tells us is that eventually you will just kind of go back to that baseline. So, is this good news or is this bad news? Is the question. I think my take is that it's actually good news, and here's why. We are infatuated with this idea of more, having more, being more, accomplishing more goals. And I think to some degree that's great, right? You want ambition, you want people to dream bigger, you want them to go after things, you want them to solve problems. But it can also be toxic in the form of greed, selfishness, in the form of inequality, in the form of taking more than what we need, right? And so then we go down the opposite end of the spectrum, right? And we say, okay, well, like, what about the people who have terrible things happen to them, right? What about the people who, get into car accidents? What about the people who have, loved ones pass? What about all the atrocious things that happen in the world? Not excusing those things, right? But what this does is it gives us hope, I think, on that end. And it gives us the ability to have some sort of peace that we can move into. And on the accumulation side, on the acquisition of things, to, for whatever reason, we do that, you know, I think there's hope there because, so much of our lives are predicated on success and achieving and goals. And, like if we know this to be true, if we know that hedonic adaptation is a real thing and it's existed since way before us, wouldn't it make sense to not build our lives in a way where we're sacrificing the things that matter to us the most: our health, our families, our loved ones, our free time, our leisure, our uh, quote unquote purpose, our passions, for something that is really not even gonna have a net like effect on our own happiness for an extended period of time, right? So why chase these dragons, if you catch them and then it's a worthless or futile endeavor, is the question that we ask ourselves, or we should be. And this is, for me, this is something that I think we should all contemplate at some point. I don't know how you relate to this, but I'd love to hear how you relate to this. I know for me, a lot of my identity has been crafted very much so intentionally. Being an entrepreneur, being a former athlete, being someone who takes pride in building things and putting a lot of my self-esteem, if you will, into the things that I create. I see the toxicity and the potential pitfalls, and I can use this as a filter for how I proceed. And the hope is that maybe you can too. The hope is that you will take this information and you will understand that no matter what happens to you in life, that there's always the ability to bounce back to that middle road, right? There's always and the ability to bounce back, or at least feel some normalcy and have some peace in life and have some pride in where you've come from or what you've been able to overcome. And also on the flip side, again, that you won't sacrifice the things that you hold dear. And that is, my friends, the end. That's all I have for you today. If you love this video, you're going to love this one or one. It's up here somewhere, but I think you're going to love it. If you don't love it, then I'll give you your money back, which is zero, because you haven't paid me for anything except your time. And I really appreciate that. So thank you. Come again. We'll see you soon.